I think that, like me and many others, you have ambitions, goals, and you always ask yourself, what would help me achieve them? What would allow me to take this business to the next level? What would allow me to maybe reach this new career goal, this new financial level, or perhaps to achieve fulfillment in relationships, to connect with certain people, maybe even in sports, whatever the area may be? When we have goals, we always look for, okay, what's the shortcut, or at least the right process to get there? So what do? We look for things we could do more of, things we're missing that could get us there. And actually, very often, when we're frustrated about not reaching the goal we've set for ourselves, or when we're frustrated about not being where we want to be, we start telling ourselves, maybe there's something I'm not doing, something I'm missing, something I don't see. And we get into this mindset of lack, like there's something missing. And let me tell you, in reality, that's a big mistake, because very often it's not what we're missing or what we should be doing more of that will get us where we want to go. It's actually things we're already doing that we absolutely need to stop. And that's why it's sometimes very difficult to reach certain levels and goals. You might think, well, if there were a miracle solution for success, everyone would know about it and everyone would do it. No, because in fact, the price to pay is a price of letting go, a price of stopping certain things that go against our nature, things that are difficult for us as human beings. And I'm going to share them with you. And it's now been, actually more than 12 years that I've been sharing advice on this YouTube channel, and even more on different platforms. And here I'm going to give you exactly 12 things that I stopped doing, which could also be something you challenge yourself to stop each month. 12 things that if you stop doing them, I can guarantee your life will reach a whole new level. And for me, every time I stop these things, it unlocks new levels. And actually, that's a question that comes up very often. People often ask me, okay, in your opinion, what made the difference? What was maybe a trigger, or what were the turning points, the different stages in your life that made a difference? Well, it really comes down to this. And honestly, if you stop doing these things without even trying to do more, you'll see your life change, whether it's in business, relationships, your attitude, or your energy. It affects everything, because this is where it all happens. It's as if this is truly the foundation of both personal and professional growth. Just to clarify, of course, if we struggle with these things, and I myself took a long time to get there, and even today I still work on it and stay very mindful of it, it's because, well, it goes against human nature. And when I say it goes against human nature, I mean it challenges us in our deepest, most profound fears. You'll see what I mean. Actually, since I share advice on productivity, by the way, I want to take this opportunity to let you know that I've written a book, and I'm releasing a new one in June 2025. So maybe you'll see this a long time from now or right away. But in any case, the book is available if you want to order it. And the title is Regain Your Time and Energy. And actually, the advice I'm going to give you will help you reclaim that time and energy for what matters to you, and to move on to these new dimensions. And it's impossible for me, who has been sharing productivity advice for quite a while now, like I said, 12 years in video, 15 years, let's say, across different platforms. That's that S where it all happens, actually. And it's crazy, right? It's really, that's always what comes up. And I think if you understand that, actually, I want to say that's a real gem. So shall we start? Let's go. First thing, stop saying yes to everything. Stop saying yes to everything. We think that everything is an opportunity. We have this thing inside us called FOMO, the fear of missing out on an opportunity. We tell ourselves, well, if someone reaches out to us, if there's something, we have to say yes, we have to say yes, we have to say yes. There's even a movie I saw that was really interesting called Yes Man, where the main character starts saying yes to everything and to get more opportunities in his life. And you see everything that happens. But actually, I think there's a subtlety to it. It's that, and I learned this from one of my mentors who told me, actually, at the beginning, when you're just starting out, yes, you have to say yes to everything. Learning, trying things out, meeting people, being asked to do things without getting paid, sometimes that's okay at the beginning. But at first, you have to say yes to everything, and then you have to learn how to say no. And it's the opposite. There's a tipping point. That's why it's counterintuitive. There comes a time in your life when, if you keep saying yes to everything, you inevitably spread yourself too thin. If you keep saying yes to everything, sometimes you're actually saying no to the people or opportunities that could take you to the next level. Because in reality, what takes you to the next level is often not doing what you already do even better, but rather completely changing and adopting a different way of thinking. And that's why very often, especially in business at the beginning, you say yes to most clients, because you need to get the company off the ground. For example, I used to say yes to unpaid speaking engagements and so on. And then after a while, you reach a point where you think, actually, no, I've been doing this for some time now. I'm providing value. I'm doing it myself and it works. Now it has gained value. And today, if someone approaches me, it has to benefit me. I need to be paid, or there has to be a good reason to do it. I can't just say yes anymore because I've moved to another level. I have new responsibilities. I have teams to pay and so on, which means that the way things worked before is no longer compatible with the next steps. And that's why at some point, you can't keep saying yes to everything. Saying no, I know it's challenging, but when it comes to time management and productivity, the real difference happens when you start valuing what truly matters and learn to say no to what doesn't contribute to that value. This applies just as much to you, to your business, to your teams, and so on. So that's the first thing. The second point, which might be frustrating for my multi-potentialite friends, is to stop constantly creating new things. But be careful, there's a nuance here once again. A lot of multipotentialites love starting new projects, coming up with new ideas, and thinking, well, today, couldn't I create a new offer? Couldn't I start a new business, launch a new project? And actually, there are projects you've started, maybe you're working on them right now, like many multipotentialites, and then you think, well, what do I do with this? So we end up abandoning what already exists to create something new. But the problem is that creating something new generates dopamine. It creates that excitement. Even in business, it works when you create something new. It actually sells better to create something new. But the problem is, well, it doesn't capitalize on what you already have, on what you already created. And that's a mistake I see very often. A lot of people make it, they spend their time creating new things instead of finding new ways to innovate, to improve what already works. Whether you have projects, offers in your business, and so on, stop chasing after everything new and focus instead on how to make what already exists work even better. So for example, instead of launching new offers, create new marketing campaigns to sell the offers that already exist. And only after that, okay, maybe then you can move on to another level, to a new dimension, and try new things once you've optimized what already exists and it's running at its best. But really, that was something that was very hard for me. It was really learning to stop chasing after novelty and instead to put my creativity and my desire for variety in service of what already works and optimize it to go even further. And that's a compromise you have to make, but it really makes a difference. So what I'm telling you is optimize what already exists, create new ways to reinvent what already works, because on top of that, it comes with more guarantees. Especially in business, your offers, everything that works, look for ways to showcase them much more regularly, to systematize them rather than always chasing after something new. New things are fine, but not when that's your only strategy. Third point, this one is about stopping the habit of always being available by reacting to emails, notifications, and messages. I know this too is very hard when it comes to productivity. It's a productivity killer. Constantly checking your emails, wanting to reply as soon as a message comes in. And on top of that, even notifications and all that, as soon as you see them, it puts you in a reactive state. And that's about getting out of reactive mode. The day you stop being reactive, your life changes and you stop constantly chasing after days filled with emergencies where you feel like you're always putting out fires instead of doing what you actually need to do. And by the way, I forbid myself from checking emails, messages, and so on during the first hour after waking up and the last hour before going to bed, precisely to avoid putting myself in that reactive mode at key moments, meaning the moment you wake up and the moment you fall asleep. We'll talk about sleep in just a moment. Fourth point, short-term thinking. It's often actually, I was talking about urgency, so it's connected to the previous point. It's always doing things for short-term results. And it's true that this too, we learn a lot about it when we work on ourselves and even when we study, in quotes, success, it's the ability to delay gratification, to have those dopamine hits be a bit reduced so we can say, okay, maybe right now I won't take that big piece of sugar that will make me feel good, but then I'll have a big crash an hour or two later. So instead, I'll eat properly to have more energy in the long run. Same thing, investing rather than spending money on pleasures. And that actually is real discipline. That takes discipline, but also even in business, the ability to say, okay, I'm going to stop just trying to make money and cash right away, even though there are times, again, when that's important, but you just can't do only that. You have to nurture systems, models that are built for the long term, learn to invest for the long term. For me, I really reached a turning point because for years, I was stuck between chasing novelty, constantly reinventing my business, and focusing on short-term things just for cash flow. And in the end, I wasn't building anything. After a while, it wore me out. I had to go to a real low point in order to invest, to do things that are more sustainable in the long run, so that finally things would run smoothly all the time. And that was a real investment. That is to say, at some point, I stopped chasing quick results because yes, you can get quick results, but you end up constantly creating just for those results. And to really have in the background a system, an ecosystem that runs well enough so that the results are recurring and no longer require me to always be in that short-term mindset, living in a short-term business. If your business requires that much energy, let's say for short-term results, the model is broken. I'd rather be honest with you. And for that, you need to work on it. Fifth point, miracle routines. Now, you might say, but wait, Johan, you wrote a book on productivity, organization, and of course, their habits, discipline, and you advocate for routine. Well, precisely, once again, everything I'm telling you is also a way of thinking about things. I spent the first chapter of the book dismantling what I call toxic productivity and the injunctions of everything like miracle morning, the tools, all that. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it works for some people and not for others. And actually, the point where I stopped doing routines was when I realized I was forcing myself to do them just because I was told that's what's good. For example, doing the miracle morning, following it to the letter, waking up early in the morning, doing this and that. And in fact, you end up automatically forcing yourself to do it after a while. If you keep forcing yourself all the time, it actually drains your energy and you don't have any left for the rest. So that was hard to accept, to tell myself, actually, everyone says this is good. You see it a lot on YouTube, but in reality, there are things people say are good, but they are not necessarily good for you. So when I say stop with miracle routines, I really mean stop following the routines you see everywhere, not what we consider me or miraculous. Just try and see if it actually suits you. And for me, I just started to create really a model that works for me and to understand, to learn to know myself. So I could realize that, okay, I don't necessarily like routines all that much, and I function better by adding variety while still maintaining a certain rhythm. So I talk about that in the book. Honestly, it's an extremely important topic. I won't go into it too much. Well, it's a long topic to develop, but the idea is not to always stay focused only on routine. Instead, it's about asking yourself how you can fill important buckets, both personally and for the business, and to have variety or ways of doing things that suit you in order to fill those buckets, to maintain consistency without falling into a routine model that for some personality types is exhausting. That's the message behind it. And I'm telling you, really, I think it's something that, makes a difference because it breaks that pressure we put on ourselves. Like, I absolutely have to be consistent. I have to stick to routines. Whereas it's actually about finding a way to maintain regularity and rhythm without necessarily falling into something repetitive. So the next point, which can also help with that, is to stop trying to do everything by yourself. Personally, I have this tendency since I learn very quickly and have certain abilities. I want to learn and do everything on my own. And honestly, in business, when I started out, I did everything myself and I really did that for a very long time. And I realized that after a while, it's just not sustainable. You hit a glass ceiling, your time is limited, your energy is limited. And on top of that, I had this superhero syndrome where if there was a problem, I wouldn't ask for help. I would really try to do everything myself. And it took me a long time. It was a lot of personal work just to start asking for help. And on top of that, to learn how to delegate. As a control freak, someone who needs to control everything, it was really hard. And even today, I still have trouble trusting others. So as a result, I learned to ask for help, to trust, to learn how to delegate all of that. And it's crazy how you realize how much time you waste when you don't do it. So just asking for help. Surrounding yourself with the right people, learning it's not just about trusting yourself and working on yourself, but also learning how to choose the right people, because that's a skill too, knowing how to choose the right people. So that actually, I think it's something that really relieved me and is important for you, because at some point, whatever your goal is, you won't be able to achieve it alone. Because at some point, you need people who are better than you, people who are experts, who give you perspective. Because on your own, you're inevitably going to hit a glass ceiling. It's impossible to think that in life you can stay alone. And that took me a long time to understand, because I've always been very solitary. But in reality, we live in a connected world, connected to other human beings. Not everyone is rotten. Not everyone is going to take advantage of you. Not everyone is going to betray you. It can happen. But no, you can also have good people around you. And today, I accept that I got to where I am thanks to others. And I think the next steps will also happen thanks to people, because there are people who open doors for you, who give you opportunities, who recommend you, who contribute, and that's okay. And we too, let's be those people who help others. That's it. That's how we move forward together. The next point is worrying about the future. I've already talked about it. It's one of the biggest flaws. That's what I'm telling you. It's very difficult because, in fact, we naturally have a survival instinct, which makes us always imagine the worst. We are very good at that. If I ask you what you don't want, I'm sure you'll be able to tell me very easily. People are really good at saying what they don't want. But if I ask you what you do want, that's much harder. What do we want in life? So that actually led me to, well, a major shift about, instead of always imagining the worst, I realized that in most cases, first of all, the majority of what I imagine never happens. And the small percentage that does happen, well, it just happens. And so we deal with it. But when we've over-anticipated something, we've lived through it twice, we've experienced it through fear, and then we'll experience it for real. I know that at one point, well, for me, when I was a kid, I had a big fear. It was one of my greatest fears, losing loved ones, especially my parents. And as it turns out, when I was 18, it happened to me. And actually, I spent a lot of my childhood being afraid of losing the people around me. I did enjoy my time with them, of course, but I was living in fear instead of just being in the moment. And I realized that when it happened, actually, well, you realize that in any case, it's going to happen. It's part of nature. So why worry about something that's bound to happen? Why not just enjoy the moment? Even in business, we always imagine we'll end up homeless, that everything will collapse. But in the end, things usually turn out fine. And when something does happen, well, it happens. So you make a decision, and I think it's okay to anticipate risks. It's okay to be prepared, to maybe have a plan A, a plan B, to be careful. I'm not saying you should go in blindly, but living constantly in anxiety about the worst case scenario isn't really living, because you're punishing yourself twice. And you realize that most of the things we imagine never actually happen. And when they do happen, either we're prepared or we'll do what's necessary, because I think that as human beings, we really do have a strong capacity for resilience. So it's okay to be prepared. I'm not saying you should live in YOLO mode, but just, yeah, I've become a lot calmer because I realize that chaos happens anyway. And every time there are problems in my life, in the end, we get through them. And if we don't, well, that's the end. Well, there you go, then it's done. And it would be a shame to have lived your life in fear. Yeah, it's very philosophical, but that's important too. And I think that even when it comes to control, which is actually against our human nature, we worry too much about things, and that stops us from taking risks. In fact, that's how we end up creating regrets. The next point, well, this one is, I think it's about finishing books. That is, learning not to force myself to finish books I've started, and also not feeling like I have to finish movies or series either. We have this thing, that we have to finish what we start, and that's fine. But sometimes, honestly, it's just not for us. There are books I just can't get into. I don't connect with them, so I need to let them go. There are movies where after 45 minutes, people tell you it's going to get better, that you just have to stick with it at the beginning. Or even with a series, after 2, 3, 4 episodes, if nothing takes off, I just lose interest. And sometimes we have, there's this bias, the sunk cost fallacy. Like, we've already invested so much time in it that we think, since we're here, we might as well finish. But actually, we're just going to waste even more time. Even in business, we can make this mistake. We can start a project, it's terrible, but because we've invested so much, we keep going, we persist, and actually, it's no longer the right direction. So I think we also have to learn to accept that. I'm not saying again, it's about balance. Everything I'm telling you, it's about common sense and balance. But this thing of always putting ourselves in the mindset of, I absolutely have to finish everything, my books, my courses, my movies, my series, in the end, we can actually waste more time. Sometimes you have to learn to give up, to stop, and that's okay. Next point. And this one is the title of a book that I really liked. It's about having the courage not to be liked, and letting go, giving up on the idea of being liked and understood by everyone. That too will set you free. And when I say it's against our nature, and I said at the beginning that human nature is like this, our greatest fear is the fear of judgment and rejection by society. Why? Because it's our survival instinct. We need each other. We are social beings. And even if you're antisocial, as I have been, even if you're really in that mindset of, I don't need anyone, I'm all alone, we still need others, and we still have that need to be understood and accepted. And if we generally reject others, it's because we've been rejected ourselves. And so it's a defensive reaction. But there's nothing more pleasant, and I think this will resonate with youth and feeling loved and understood and not judged. So that means that being judged, not being loved, and not being understood by people, it hurts us. And that's okay. And for me, actually, having been exposed on the internet with all of that, I actually realized that no matter what I do or say, there are people who won't like me. There are people who don't have to understand me. There are people who still don't get what I'm talking about. Maybe you're watching this video and you don't understand anything. Sometimes there are people, I have content like this and they don't understand anything. They don't understand me. They don't understand my point of view. Sometimes actually we even have a kind of ethics or things that are important to us. We wait. We hope that others will pick up on it. And then maybe some people call me a scammer or whatever you want. That's okay. That's okay. It doesn't belong to me actually. And that's important too. Yeah. To accept that there are people who won't like you. There are people who won't understand you. And there's no point in justifying yourself or wanting to be liked. And if you do things to be liked and to be understood, you're going to end up frustrated in life. The right people who love you, they matter, they're there, and there aren't very many of them. As for the others, if you're not understood, well, that's just how it is. Of course, communication and all that we do, everything we can to be understood by the right people, but at some point, there's no point in spending your life trying to be liked and understood by everyone because it's just impossible. And remember that, anchor it in your mind. You have to learn to let go of that, and it's not easy. It's not easy. It's really something that is, I say, it's hard in life to be completely unaffected by it. But on the other hand, you can learn to care less, or at least to rise above it in most cases. That doesn't mean there won't be times when you'll be more sensitive or maybe more easily offended or in a state where you take things more personally, but that's okay. And as they say in the Toltec agreements, don't take anything personally because, once again, it's someone else's judgment, it's someone else's perspective, and that's it. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. There's no need to. The right people, as I always say, just be yourself, and that's my biggest message, everything I've been doing for years. When you are yourself, the right people come into your life, and at least you are loved for who you truly are, not for a mask you wear. That's the advice I can give you. Next point, I stopped forcing myself to stay in environments and with people who drain my energy. This one is very important. In the book, I talk about the aspect of energy, environment, all of that. And it's true that there are people who are like vampires, people you're not compatible with, not necessarily because they are mean or anything. As I said, it's just a matter of compatibility. And we were talking about judgment and understanding. There are people and environments with which you're simply not compatible. If I find myself in an environment that feels heavy, where I have to force myself, where I don't feel like I can truly be myself, or where, it just drains me and I feel bad, I don't stay there. You have to stop forcing yourself to live with people who make you feel bad or with whom you feel uncomfortable. Actually, that's something we try to force ourselves into, where we want to tell ourselves, but it will change and so on. But in reality, we over-adapt and make ourselves unhappy. If you're in an environment with people who drain your energy, how do you expect to live normally? So I would say, yeah, that's about learning to protect yourself first, to be more assertive, but also to really reclaim your own sovereignty and get out of that. The second to last point is something that's a major problem of our time, which is that I stopped scrolling on social media. Mindlessly scrolling through, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, you can easily get swept away. And honestly, at one point I was doing it a lot and I would use the excuse, it relaxes my brain, it's good for me. Sometimes I would watch silly stuff and I still do it from time to time, but now it's more controlled. But the problem is we're just trying to reassure ourselves. It's like reality television. Yeah, but I watch it because it's dumb and I make fun of it, but that's also what they want. It's part of the insidious thing. It's made for that too. So even when you are aware that it's stupid and not good for you, and you do it knowingly, it's still not good for you. So it's okay once in a while. I'm not saying that I would watch funny animal videos or stuff like tutorials from time to time, but I try to control it. But above all, I've replaced that by telling myself that if I'm going to distract myself, I might as well do things where I'm more proactive. I'm going to play. Either a board game, a video game, or even just watching a movie, at least doing something where I feel like I'm not just watching dumb stuff, because at least with a movie, there's a story you get into. With games, I'm active. I love video games. 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 I love video ga even with board games, playing chess, playing GeoGuessr, working on my geography, whatever it is. But really, feeling that time, even if I'm distracting myself with things that don't wreck me, with algorithms designed just to numb me. And I think that's important. And again, I'm not against entertainment, but I'm against those things that after a while we know aren't healthy. We know they're not good for the brain. We know they give us dopamine hits, but they're not necessarily, that don't engage our intellect. But I'm even saying that there are forms of entertainment that can at least do us some good. And again, you could say we're passive in front of a movie and all that, but the movie has sensitivity, a story, emotions that we experience. When we watch nonsense like that, the only emotions are either we laugh or we get annoyed. That's what it's made for. The algorithms are designed to stimulate emotions, but not in our best interest. And that's something we really, really, really need to be aware of. Being aware of it so you can be conscious of it, and also having self-confidence to be able to say, it's okay. I take a step back, and when I say it's about self-confidence, it's because sometimes when we lack confidence, we end up falling into this and start comparing ourselves a lot. And comparing myself to others is one of the things I've stopped doing. I didn't put it in the top, but maybe I should have. But for me, it also goes along with judgment and the social aspect, where we compare ourselves and want to fit in and all that. But I think I'll just add it as a little bonus before the last one, which is we can't talk about energy, productivity, all of that without talking about sleep and recovery. The moment I stop neglecting my sleep, and me, I'm someone who prefers to stay up late. Right now, as I'm recording this, it's 10 o'clock at night. I'm telling you, it's 10 o'clock. And well, I very often make this mistake of staying up late on screen sometimes, and that's not good. Even when I read, I get really into it and end up going to bed late. The problem isn't going to bed late. It's that if you go to bed late, you wake up early. It's the duration of sleep that matters. So I took control of my sleep again. I have a ring here, which I often talk to you about. It's the Aura ring, which tracks sleep and gives statistics. But actually, what I did for my sleep isn't necessarily screens, they say that's a myth, all that stuff. It's not just about the screens themselves. It's about what we're watching on them. I think those stories about blue light and all that have been somewhat debunked. We're not really sure. Anyway, it's all pretty unclear. But once again, it's about stimulation, what we're exposing ourselves to, and what stimulates us in the evening. And for me, in the evening, I try to have a little time to wind down, to create a small routine for myself. And also, I realize that it's about the quality of what I do during the day. If I've exerted myself, been active, and all that, I sleep better. If I've stayed outside and stored up energy, I won't feel good. So sometimes it's just that. And also, it's true that we talk a lot on this kind of brings us back full circle to things like the miracle morning and all that. But actually, most things don't happen in the morning. They happen the night before. The quality of your morning depends on what you did the night before. Even mental load and all that, it's about your ability to clear your mind the night before and get things done ahead of time so you can be at ease when you wake up in the morning. So I talk about all this regularly in the book. You'll find tips on organization. So if you want to get it, there you go. So that's it for the 12. I wanted to take this casual tone. I wanted to share in a relaxed way like this. Let me know, is there anything that particularly resonates with you? Are there things you've stopped doing that have changed your life? Tell me in the comments. Whether it's something I mentioned or something else, let's share. I'm interested. And as I said, feel free to subscribe. I'm putting this on YouTube, but I'll also upload it as a podcast for those who listen to me. It lends itself well to listening. And if you enjoyed it, I'll do another episode like this and you can let me know. That's it. This was really a laid-back format. I didn't want to overthink it. And then, well, I'll see you again for new adventures and to share little gems like this to help you progress, level up, and stay in your flow. I wish you lots of success, and I'll see you very soon.